Beneath the deserts of ancient Mesopotamia, clay tablets preserve an unsettling question few people ever ask. Early Sumerian scribes described Earth as part of a sacred cycle that reached far beyond farming, yet their words have often been misunderstood. Tonight we'll follow the original texts, examine the evidence, and discover why harvests meant far more than food to the world's first civilization. Every clue comes from surviving cuneiform records, not modern legends or internet myths. Before we uncover the first tablet, tell us which country you're watching from in the comments. And let's begin this remarkable investigation together. Why did the Sumerians treat soil as sacred? Long before the first cities covered the plains of Mesopotamia, the land itself held extraordinary importance. To modern eyes, soil is simply dirt beneath our feet. For the ancient Sumerians, it represented possibility. It marked a place where order could emerge from emptiness, and where human effort transformed the natural world into something lasting. Understanding this belief is the first step toward solving today's mystery. One of the oldest literary works connected to this idea is the Song of the Hoe. At first, its title seems almost disappointing. Why would an ancient civilization compose poetry about a farming tool? The answer reveals how differently the Sumerians viewed the world. The hoe was never praised because it was powerful. It was praised because it began everything. Before temples stood above the horizon, the ground had to be opened. Before canals carried fresh water, the earth had to be shaped. Before homes sheltered families, foundations had to be prepared. Every achievement started with the first cut into the soil. The poem celebrates that simple truth. Instead of honoring conquest, it honors creation. Instead of glorifying destruction, it praises cultivation. That contrast tells us something important about the earliest Sumerian worldview. It began with ordinary people transforming the land through patience, skill, and steady work. One simple tool could prepare a field. A prepared field could change the future of an entire community. The Sumerians lived between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, where successful farming depended upon careful planning rather than luck. Water had to reach the fields at the proper time. Irrigation channels required constant maintenance. Floods could nourish crops one season and destroy them the next. Nothing about agriculture was automatic. Every harvest reflected months of preparation. Families worked together. Neighbors shared responsibilities. Communities repaired canals before planting began. The land rewarded cooperation. It punished neglect. For that reason, fertile ground became more than a natural resource. It became a symbol of opportunity. The earth offered potential. Human effort determined the result. This perspective appears repeatedly throughout early Mesopotamian literature. Nature provided the foundation. People supplied discipline. Together they created something neither could achieve alone. The ancient writers wanted readers to recognize that lasting prosperity begins long before grain fills a storage house. It begins with the choices people make while no reward is yet visible. The first seed had not even been planted. Yet the most important part of the process was already complete. Preparing the ground required vision. It demanded patience before success could be seen. That lesson extended far beyond farming. The same principle guided builders raising temples. It guided workers digging canals. It guided craftsmen shaping tools. Strong foundations determined future results. Perhaps that explains why the Song of the Hoe focuses so heavily on preparation instead of celebration. The poem invites readers to admire beginnings rather than endings. The harvest may have been visible. The real transformation happened much earlier. Modern readers often search ancient tablets for dramatic secrets or supernatural revelations. The Sumerian scribes frequently pointed toward quieter truths. Civilizations rise because countless ordinary actions accumulate over time. One field becomes many. Many fields support villages. Villages become cities. Cities create cultures. Everything starts with prepared ground. The next group of tablets introduces another surprising piece of the puzzle. They do not describe planting or harvesting. Instead, they record where the harvest traveled after it left the fields. Those simple records reveal an organized system that shaped every major Sumerian city and may completely change the way we understand the purpose of Earth's abundance. The journey of the harvest did not end when farmers gathered grain from the fields. In many Sumerian cities, that was only the beginning. Thousands of surviving administrative tablets reveal an organized network that carefully tracked where crops, livestock, oil, wool, and other goods traveled after every successful season. These records may appear ordinary at first glance, yet together they provide one of the clearest windows into everyday life in the world's earliest civilization. If you're enjoying these evidence-based explorations of ancient mysteries, subscribe now. Every documentary on this channel is built from original historical sources, separating authentic history from modern speculation. Unlike royal inscriptions or mythological stories, these tablets were practical documents. They recorded deliveries. They listed quantities. They identified workers. They tracked storage. They documented distribution. Nothing about them was written to entertain. Everything served a practical purpose. That is exactly why historians value them so highly. Unlike legends, accounting records rarely exaggerate. They simply record what happened. Again and again, the same pattern appears. Barley entered temple storehouses. Oil arrived in measured containers. Livestock was counted. Textiles were cataloged. Every delivery became part of a carefully managed system. The temples were not functioning only as places of worship. They also operated as economic centers that organized large parts of city life. Workers received rations. Craftsmen collected materials. Laborers were supplied with food. Public projects depended upon those resources being managed efficiently. The harvest supported far more than individual households. Following the grain reveals something even more interesting than the grain itself. It reveals how an entire society remained connected. A farmer working outside the city walls might never meet the scribe recording deliveries inside the temple. The potter shaping storage jars might never speak with the canal worker repairing irrigation channels. Even so, every person depended upon the same organized system. The harvest moved from the fields into storage. From storage, it reached workshops. From workshops, it supported construction. From construction, cities continued growing. Every stage relied upon the one before it. The tablets quietly document that chain without dramatic language or supernatural claims. Their value lies in their simplicity. They preserve evidence of cooperation on an enormous scale. Instead of describing isolated families struggling alone, they reveal communities working through interconnected responsibilities. One successful growing season strengthened many different occupations. One failed season threatened everyone. The surviving records demonstrate remarkable administrative skill for a civilization more than 4,000 years old. They also suggest that abundance was never viewed as something meant to remain in one place. Resources continually moved where they were needed most. One mystery still refuses to disappear. Why did the Sumerians place such importance on keeping this cycle alive? The answer becomes clearer when the tablets are viewed together. The movement of grain was not random. The movement created stability. Stable supplies reduced shortages. Reliable distribution supported skilled workers. Skilled workers improved cities. Improved cities strengthened the entire community. Every successful harvest became part of something larger than the field where it first appeared. Remarkably, the surviving records spend very little time praising wealth itself. Their attention stays focused on organization, responsibility, and continuity. Order mattered more than excess. Balance mattered more than accumulation. Perhaps that explains why these administrative tablets survived in such extraordinary numbers. They preserved the system that allowed society to function. The next source approaches the same subject from a completely different direction. Instead of recording deliveries with numbers and measurements, it tells a symbolic story. Two unexpected characters begin arguing over which one contributes more to human prosperity. Their debate reveals an ancient definition of abundance that feels surprisingly modern and challenges everything most people assume about the meaning of a successful harvest. The debate that redefined prosperity. The next piece of the puzzle comes from one of the most creative works in Sumerian literature, a text scholars call the debate between grain and sheep. Rather than describing a king, a battle, or a divine miracle, the poem presents an argument between two gifts of the earth. Grain speaks with confidence about feeding cities and ending hunger. Sheep answers by praising wool, milk, leather, and everything a flock provides. Each believes it deserves to be called humanity's greatest blessing. At first, the discussion sounds almost entertaining. Two voices compete. Each defends its value. Each points to its achievements. Yet beneath the dialogue lies a serious question. How should true prosperity be measured? The poem refuses to give an easy answer. Grain can fill storehouses, but people also need clothing. Sheep provide warm garments, yet no family survives without bread. Neither one is complete on its own. Both become essential when they exist together. The ancient author deliberately avoids choosing a simple winner. Instead, the debate teaches that lasting success depends upon balance, not dominance. One resource cannot replace another. Every contribution strengthens the whole. The argument between grain and sheep seems settled. Then its deeper message quietly begins to appear. The poem is not really about crops or animals. It is about relationships. Fields depend on water. Flocks depend on pasture. Farmers rely on craftsmen. Craftsmen rely on merchants. Merchants rely on secure roads. Every occupation connects to another. Remove one link and the entire chain becomes weaker. The Sumerian writer transforms ordinary agriculture into a lesson about society itself. Prosperity is never created by one person working alone. It grows when different people contribute different skills toward the same future. That idea explains why ancient Mesopotamian cities became some of their earliest centers of organized life. Success required cooperation before it produced abundance. Communities that understood this principle became stronger. Communities that ignored it faced increasing hardship. The debate quietly celebrates interdependence rather than competition. Its message feels remarkably modern despite being written thousands of years ago. The greatest achievement was not producing more. It was learning how every resource could support another. The story ends without a dramatic victory. Its lesson continues long after the final lines. Many modern readers search ancient tablets for predictions, hidden technology, or forgotten supernatural secrets. The Sumerian scribes often focused on something far closer to everyday life. They asked how societies remain stable. They explored why cooperation succeeds. They examined the responsibilities that accompany abundance. Those questions made the poem valuable long after the harvest season ended. Its purpose was educational as much as literary. Children, workers, priests, and officials could all recognize themselves within its message. Every role mattered. Every task carried value. No harvest reached its full potential through farming alone. Transport was required. Storage was required. Distribution was required. Planning was required. Without those steps, abundance quickly became waste. The debate encourages readers to admire the invisible work supporting every visible success. That perspective changes how the entire documentary should be viewed. The mystery has never been hidden inside one extraordinary object. It has been scattered across ordinary moments that ancient writers considered worthy of remembering. One final Sumerian composition takes that idea even further. Instead of praising grain or livestock, it celebrates a simple tool used before either could exist. Its message reveals why the smallest actions often become the foundation for history's greatest achievements. Why a simple pickaxe came sacred. The final literary source in this investigation approaches the mystery from an unexpected direction. Instead of celebrating a successful harvest or describing the movement of grain through temple storehouses, it honors a tool. The composition, known today as Enlil and the pickaxe, praises an object so ordinary that many modern readers overlook its importance entirely. Yet to the Sumerians, this simple instrument represented the beginning of every lasting achievement. The poem opens with a striking image. The ground lies untouched. Fields remain unprepared. Canals do not yet exist. Cities have not risen. Nothing moves forward until the first piece of earth is broken. The pickaxe becomes the symbol that transforms possibility into reality. It clears land. It shapes foundations. It opens irrigation channels. It prepares places where homes, workshops, and temples can later stand. Without those first actions, every later accomplishment remains impossible. The message is quiet but powerful. History rarely begins with grand events. It usually begins with simple work, repeated patiently over time. The ancient poet understood that lasting success depends on preparation long before results become visible. One tool could never build a city by itself. Even so, every city depended on the work it made possible. After the ground was prepared, other people continued the task. Builders raised walls. Engineers directed water through canals. Craftsmen produced tools. Potters shaped storage jars. Carpenters constructed roofs. Scribes recorded agreements. Merchants carried supplies between distant settlements. Every occupation added another piece to a growing society. No contribution stood alone. Each relied on work completed by someone else. The poem never glorifies one profession above another. Instead, it presents progress as the result of shared effort. That perspective helps explain why the pickaxe received such unusual attention. It represented the first link in a chain that eventually reached every corner of daily life. The smallest action often created the greatest consequences. Preparing one field encouraged another family to settle nearby. Several families formed a village. Villages expanded into towns. Towns developed into cities connected through trade, law, and cooperation. The transformation happened gradually. Generation after generation added something new. The ancient writer reminds readers that remarkable civilizations are built through persistence rather than sudden miracles. Looking across these different tablets, an unexpected pattern begins to emerge. Each source focuses on a different stage of the same journey. The Song of the Hoe celebrates preparation. The temple offering lists preserve organization. The debate between grain and sheep highlights cooperation. Enlil and the Pickaxe honors disciplined effort. None of these texts tries to impress readers with impossible claims. Instead, they describe the practical foundations that allowed one of humanity's earliest civilizations to flourish. Perhaps that explains why these works survive for thousands of years. They recorded ideas that remained useful long after individual kingdoms disappeared. Empires rose, empires declined, the lessons continued. Preparation still matters, organization still matters, cooperation still matters. Patient work still matters. Those themes connect every source examined in this documentary. The final chapter brings them together without adding modern myths or exaggerated interpretations. Only after comparing every surviving piece of evidence does the larger picture become clear. The oldest Sumerian tablets were never describing an invisible force secretly feeding upon the earth. They were preserving a timeless explanation of how human societies grow, endure, and pass their achievements from one generation to the next. The pattern hidden across every tablet after examining each source on its own, the larger picture finally begins to appear. None of these writings was created to answer the same question. One celebrates a farming tool. Another records deliveries into temple storehouses. A third presents a poetic debate. A fourth honors a simple pickaxe. They were written for different audiences and different purposes. Even so, they repeatedly point toward a shared understanding of how the world functioned. The Song of the Hoe begins with preparation. Nothing grows until the ground is opened. The temple offering lists continue with responsibility. Resources move where they are needed instead of remaining in one place. The debate between grain and sheep emphasizes balance. Different strengths work together rather than competing for absolute importance. Enlil and the Pickaxe ends by honoring disciplined labor. Every stage depends upon the one before it. Viewed separately, these texts tell different stories. Viewed together, they describe a complete process. The pattern does not revolve around one king, one god, or one miraculous event. It revolves around continuity. Land is prepared, crops are grown, resources are shared, communities become stronger, future generations inherit the results. The cycle begins again. One important question still deserves a direct answer. Did the Sumerians actually believe Earth was feeding mysterious hidden beings? The surviving historical evidence says no. No authenticated cuneiform tablet states that invisible entities literally harvest the planet. No verified Sumerian composition describes humanity as food created for unknown cosmic powers. Those popular ideas come from modern speculation rather than the original texts themselves. The genuine tablets tell a different story. They describe a civilization deeply concerned with sustaining order through agriculture, labor, organization, and shared responsibility. That conclusion is not less fascinating. It is more impressive. 4,000 years ago, Sumerian writers recognized that successful societies depend on systems that must be maintained carefully across generations. Their attention remained fixed on the connections holding communities together instead of searching for dramatic mysteries. That practical wisdom explains why so many administrative records survived alongside myths and hymns. Daily responsibilities matter just as much as legendary stories. Perhaps the greatest surprise is how familiar these ancient lessons still feel. Modern technology has transformed nearly every part of life. The basic challenges remain remarkably similar. Healthy farmland still matters. Reliable water still matters. Careful planning still matters. Communities still depend on cooperation. Strong institutions still require trust. Future prosperity still begins with decisions made long before results become visible. The Sumerian tablets remind us that lasting success is rarely created through one extraordinary moment. It grows from countless ordinary actions repeated with consistency, preparing the land, keeping accurate records, sharing resources wisely, respecting responsibilities, teaching the next generation. Those principles allowed one of history's earliest civilizations to endure for centuries. Perhaps that is the real meaning hidden inside today's mystery. The Earth was never portrayed simply as a place where crops appeared each year. It was presented as the foundation upon which every other human achievement depended. The oldest tablets do not ask us to believe in possible stories. They invite us to notice the quiet processes that make civilization possible. Sometimes the greatest discoveries are not hidden behind supernatural secrets. Sometimes they are preserved inside practical records that generations overlooked because they appeared too ordinary to matter. Yet those ordinary tablets still speak across 4,000 years with remarkable clarity, offering lessons that remain just as meaningful in the modern world as they were in ancient Sumer. The oldest Sumerian tablets reveal a mystery far different from modern myths, yet Mesopotamia still holds many unanswered questions. Another forgotten tablet uncovers an even stranger story hidden beneath ancient cuneiform inscriptions. Watch the next video now and continue exploring history's greatest mysteries, waiting to be rediscovered together.